Did you know that the secret to transforming your relationships and boosting your self-worth isn't about being more available or seeking constant validation? It's actually about embracing a few powerful but often overlooked principles. If you want to become someone others naturally want to prioritize, you need to do this. Learn to embrace mystery, cultivate a sense of self-reliance, and most importantly, be willing to walk away when needed. These principles aren't just ideas, they're strategies rooted in Stoicism that will elevate the way you navigate relationships and protect your peace. The best part: these rules apply to anyone, whether you're just starting out in life or you're well into your career, relationships, or personal journey. These insights are the same principles that have helped some of history's greatest figures build respect, influence, and resilience. Avoid this mistake, failing to recognize your worth and not setting clear boundaries. By the end of this video, you'll be equipped with the tools to transform your presence and make sure you're the one who's always prioritized. Number 1. Embrace mystery, the power of being unpredictable. Have you ever met someone whose presence feels magnetic? They don't have to say much, yet they command attention. There's an allure to the unknown, a quiet power in leaving things unsaid. We've all had those moments when we're intrigued by someone who isn't an open book, someone whose actions or words leave us wondering what's really going on beneath the surface. It's the pull of mystery. And if you've ever felt the thrill of wanting to know more about someone, you've experienced the impact of this very principle. Imagine this: you're spending time with a close friend or partner. They share just enough to keep you engaged, but always leave you wanting a little more. Their thoughts and experiences unfold like a story that you want to read, but you can't quite get to the end just yet. There's something captivating about that. It doesn't matter if you've known them for years or just met. They've created an irresistible aura of curiosity that draws you closer. This isn't about playing games or being deceptive. It's about knowing when to open up and when to leave things for others to discover on their own. In a world where so much is laid bare on social media, where people often overshare, the person who knows how to hold a little back is rare, and they're the ones others are naturally drawn to. Think about how you feel when you meet someone who's a bit mysterious. They don't flaunt their entire life story, but you can feel there's more to them. They have an aura of depth, something that keeps you coming back for more, wanting to uncover the layers behind their smile. This concept of being unpredictable isn't about keeping people in the dark or creating unnecessary distance. It's about controlling what you reveal and when. Just like a book with the first few chapters laid out, you want to give enough to spark curiosity, but keep the rest of the narrative just out of reach. Over time, this draws people in. They want to know more. Not because they're entitled to your story, but because they're intrigued by the complexity you've presented. Cleopatra, one of history's most iconic figures, is a prime example of this. Her magnetic charm wasn't solely based on beauty or power, but on the mystery that surrounded her. The unknown aspects of her life and her true intentions were part of what made her so fascinating. She understood the power of being unpredictable, how maintaining a veil of mystery could amplify her allure and draw others into her world. This isn't reserved for queens or famous figures, it's a principle anyone can adopt. Whether in a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even in your professional life, the mystery you create around yourself has a power that can't be underestimated. As you think about this, reflect on your own life. How often do you reveal everything at once? What if you held back a little more, letting others uncover pieces of who you are over time? This doesn't mean withholding your true self. It means giving people a chance to see the depth of your character layer by layer. Imagine the curiosity it would spark. Suddenly, you're no longer just another person. They want to know you on a deeper level. The mystery of who you are becomes part of the attraction, making your presence irresistible. Number 2, cultivate a fear of losing you, the art of self-reliance. There's a quiet strength in independence that many overlook. It's not about pushing people away or building walls. It's about creating a life that is rich and fulfilling on its own, where the absence of others creates a void, not the presence. Think about the people in your life that you value the most. When they're there, they bring something unique and irreplaceable, but when they're gone, there's a noticeable emptiness. This is the power of cultivating a fear of losing you. It's not about playing hard to get or using manipulation. It's about understanding your own worth and carrying that confidence wherever you go. You've probably had experiences where someone treated you like an option rather than a priority. Maybe it was a friend who didn't make time for you or a partner who took you for granted. It stings, doesn't it? You give your time, your energy, your love, and yet they don't seem to prioritize you the same way. What if the problem isn't about them at all, but about how you perceive your own value? Imagine if you approached life from a place of total self-reliance, not depending on others to make you happy, not relying on them to validate your worth, but rather knowing that your life is complete without anyone else's approval. This is the essence of the Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood that true strength lies in self-sufficiency. He taught that the only thing we can truly control is our own minds, not external events or people. When you recognize this, you start to create a life that feels whole on its own. You become someone others seek to be around, not because you're needy, but because you're self-assured, confident, and full of purpose. And when you live like this, people naturally start to realize how rare your presence is. Imagine if people saw you as irreplaceable, not because you demand it, but because your life is full of richness and meaning. When you don't rely on others for your happiness, when you create a world for yourself that doesn't hinge on anyone else's approval, you become someone people are afraid to lose. They see you as a treasure, not something they can casually discard, but something they want to keep in their life. This is the subtle art of making yourself a priority without begging for it. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding your own worth and allowing others to see the value you bring. In a romantic relationship, this might look like not always being available for every demand. When you focus on your own pursuits, whether it's career goals, hobbies, or friendships, you show others that you're not desperate for their attention. The dynamic shifts from you chasing after them to them striving to be a part of your world. In friendships, this might mean setting boundaries and maintaining your own space, letting people know that your time is precious and should be earned, not expected. Think of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak during the early days of Apple. Jobs recognized the unique value Wozniak brought to their venture and worked tirelessly to keep him on board. Wozniak wasn't just another co-founder, he was indispensable. Jobs didn't have to beg for Wozniak's time. He understood that in a world of irreplaceable people, everyone wants to be part of something important. Similarly, by cultivating independence and self-sufficiency, you'll create a life where others realize the value of your presence and strive to be part of your journey, not because they have to, but because they want to. Number 3, create your own happiness. Become a beacon of joy. Think back to a time when you were truly happy, when you felt alive and full of energy. Wasn't it a wonderful feeling? The world seemed brighter, your relationships more fulfilling, and everything just felt right. It's easy to associate happiness with external circumstances, finding the perfect job, having the ideal partner, or living in your dream house. But in reality, happiness doesn't come from those things. It comes from within. When you create your own happiness, you become a beacon of joy, radiating positivity and energy that naturally attracts others. Now, I'm not saying that external factors don't play a role in how we feel. Of course they do. But true happiness, the kind that doesn't fade when circumstances change, is something that you must cultivate yourself. It's about building a sense of self-assurance and finding joy in the present moment, regardless of what's happening around you. Think about someone you know who exudes positivity. Maybe they're not rich or famous, but they have a certain energy about them that makes you feel good just being around them. They've mastered the art of self-generated happiness. The Stoics, like Seneca, taught that happiness comes from within, not from external validation. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future, he wrote. This means that your happiness isn't tied to what you have or what you're waiting for. It's about finding contentment with who you are right now. Imagine living with that mindset every day, waking up and feeling grateful for the simple things, feeling at peace with who you are, and knowing that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else. Take Theodore Roosevelt, for example. Despite facing unimaginable personal losses, including the death of his mother and wife on the same day, Roosevelt found joy in life. He didn't let tragedy define him. Instead, he sought fulfillment in his own pursuits, boxing, exploring the Badlands, and dedicating himself to public service. His resilience and zest for life didn't come from external sources. They came from within. Roosevelt's example shows us that happiness is something we can create, no matter our circumstances. When you embrace the power of self-generated happiness, you stop looking for others to fill the gaps in your life. Instead, you become a source of joy and inspiration for those around you. Your relationships shift from being about dependence to mutual enrichment. People are drawn to you not because you need them, but because you have something valuable to offer. And when you do this, when you cultivate happiness within yourself, you become a beacon of light, attracting the right people and experiences into your life. You no longer wait for happiness to find you. It finds its way to you naturally. Number 4, be a valuable investment. Let others earn your presence. We've all experienced those relationships where it feels like we're doing all the work, initiating conversations, making the effort, constantly reaching out. Over time, it can feel exhausting, like you're giving more than you're receiving. It can be draining when the people around you don't value your time, your energy, or your company. Now, imagine flipping that dynamic. What if you were someone whose presence was so valuable that others had to earn the right to be around you? What if you could demand, not in an arrogant way, but in a healthy, self-respecting way, that people put in the effort to be in your life? Think about someone who truly values their time and knows their worth. They don't have to beg for attention or chase after people. They understand that their presence is something special, something not everyone deserves to experience. Whether it's in a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a professional setting, people will naturally gravitate towards you when you make it clear that your time and attention are not freely given. Just like any valuable asset, your time and energy are precious, and when people recognize that, they begin to treat you differently. In a romantic context, this might look like setting boundaries and not being overly available. When you're always there at someone's beck and call, you can lose your value in their eyes. But when you prioritize yourself, your needs and your passions, you show others that being around you isn't something they can take for granted. They need to invest their time and energy, just like you're investing yours. They have to prove that they value you by showing consistency, respect, and effort in your relationship. This creates a balanced dynamic where both parties are equally invested, not one side doing all the work. It's the same in friendships. We've all had those friends who seem to only reach out when they need something or when it's convenient for them. It's natural to feel taken for granted in these situations. But when you stop being the one who always gives, when you create space and time for yourself, people begin to understand that your presence is not something they can take for granted. Friendships should be a two-way street where both sides are equally committed to putting in the effort. This principle is essential in professional settings as well. When you're highly skilled, experienced, or offer something unique, your time is valuable. The best opportunities will come when people have to earn the privilege of working with you. Think about top athletes or successful entrepreneurs. People who have reached a level of greatness don't simply give their time away freely. They make others prove that they deserve it. You can do the same in your personal and professional life. When you stop being overly available, people will take notice and appreciate you more. This doesn't mean you should become distant or cold, but rather that you should become more mindful of who you invest your time in. Consider your energy a limited resource. When you stop giving it away so freely, you not only elevate your own self-worth, but you also teach others how to treat you. When people realize that they must earn your time and attention, they start showing up with more respect, effort, and care. This shift in how you interact with the world will lead to more meaningful, balanced, and fulfilling relationships. Number 5, don't make them the center of your universe. Preserve your independence. In life, we often hear the phrase, "You complete me," or "I can't live without you." These expressions may seem romantic, but they can also be dangerous when we make someone else the center of our universe. When we give all our attention, focus, and energy to another person, we risk losing ourselves in the process. The idea of preserving your independence isn't about pushing people away or shutting them out of your life. It's about maintaining your sense of self, even when you're in close relationships. Think about it. When was the last time you truly focused on yourself, on your dreams, your passions, your goals? In today's world, it's easy to become so absorbed in someone else's life that we forget to nurture our own. Whether it's a partner, a friend, or a family member, it's important to remember that your life should never revolve entirely around another person. Healthy relationships require balance. It's about finding space for both the other person and for yourself. Imagine a situation where you've been in a relationship for a while, and slowly you start putting all your energy into it. You stop doing the things you once loved because you feel you need to prioritize the other person. Over time, your identity begins to merge with theirs, and you lose the sense of who you are outside of the relationship. This is a dangerous place to be because when the relationship faces challenges or changes, you may feel as though you've lost everything. The key to a healthy relationship, whether it's romantic, familial, or platonic, is mutual respect for each other's independence. This means having your own hobbies, friends, and interests outside of the relationship. It's not about avoiding intimacy or avoiding commitment. It's about ensuring that your personal growth continues regardless of the people in your life. Think about the strongest relationships you've had, whether with friends, family, or partners, and ask yourself, how many of those were successful because both people maintained their sense of individuality? People who are independent are often the most attractive to others because they bring their own energy to the table instead of relying on others to fill the void. They're self-sufficient, emotionally balanced, and able to offer their full selves to a relationship without losing their own sense of identity. Independence also provides strength during difficult times. When you maintain your own interests, you can stand firm even when external circumstances challenge you. If your entire world is tied up in someone else, their struggles can become your struggles. But when you have your own passions and ambitions, you have a sense of fulfillment that isn't dependent on anyone else's mood or actions. This allows for greater emotional resilience and strength in all types of relationships. Preserving your independence isn't about being emotionally distant or detached. It's about recognizing that you are whole, complete, and valuable on your own. It's about continuing to grow as an individual while sharing your life with others. When you maintain your independence, you show that you value yourself, and others will naturally value you more as well. Number 6, prioritize your own needs. Self-respect comes first. It's easy to fall into the trap of putting everyone else's needs ahead of your own, especially when you care deeply about others. Whether it's family, friends, or romantic partners, there's a natural inclination to make their happiness your priority. But what happens when you constantly put others first? What happens when you deprioritize your own needs in favor of everyone else's? Think about the last time you ignored your own needs for the sake of someone else. Maybe you skipped a workout, cancelled plans with friends, or sacrificed sleep just to make sure someone else was okay. In the moment, it might have felt like the right thing to do, like you were being selfless or showing love. But in the long run, it's not sustainable. You can't pour from an empty cup. When you neglect your own needs, you drain yourself, and eventually, you won't have anything left to give. Self-respect is not about being selfish, but about recognizing that your well-being is just as important as anyone else's. By putting your own needs first, you send a message to yourself and to others that you value your time, your health, and your emotional well-being. Think about it this way. If you don't take care of yourself, how can you truly take care of others? You can't be a source of strength and support for others if you're constantly running on empty. In the past, you may have felt guilty for setting boundaries, for saying no, or for prioritizing your own needs. But the truth is, when you practice self-care and put yourself first, you become a better version of yourself. You have more energy, more patience, and more love to offer to others. By respecting your own needs, you teach others to respect them too. People will begin to understand that your time and energy are limited resources, and they'll learn to value you more because of it. This principle isn't just for relationships with others. It's also essential in your professional life. When you prioritize your own goals, values, and well-being, you become more productive, more focused, and more effective in everything you do. By placing importance on your own needs, you don't just improve your relationships with others, you improve your relationship with yourself. You create a life that is fulfilling and balanced, where your needs are met just as much as everyone else's. And in doing so, you attract more positive energy into your life, creating a cycle of mutual respect and care. Number 7, limit your availability. Recognize the value of your time. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to feel like we have to be constantly available to everyone, whether it's responding to messages, taking phone calls, or showing up to social events. We often wear our availability like a badge of honor, believing that the more accessible we are, the more we're valued or appreciated. But what if I told you that your time is far more valuable than that? The simple truth is, when you make yourself too available to others, you dilute your worth. You are not a vending machine for attention or help. You are a human being with finite resources. Think back to a time when you said yes to something out of obligation rather than desire. Maybe you agreed to an extra shift at work, attended a social gathering you didn't want to, or agreed to lend your time to someone who didn't truly appreciate it. In the moment, you might have felt the pressure to comply, but afterwards, how did you feel? Resentful? Drained? These feelings are a sign that you haven't properly valued your own time. And when you don't value your own time, others won't either. Limiting your availability isn't about becoming distant or unapproachable. It's about recognizing the intrinsic value of your time and energy. It's about saying no when you know it's not in alignment with your priorities or well-being. When you start limiting your availability, people will begin to recognize that your time is something precious, something to be earned. It encourages respect for your boundaries and shows others that you cannot be taken for granted. Think about your work life. Are you constantly saying yes to every task, every project, no matter how draining? Do you find yourself overcommitted and stretched thin, trying to please everyone? This often leads to burnout, lower productivity, and dissatisfaction. But when you limit your availability and prioritize what truly matters to you, whether it's your family, your health, or your personal passions, you will begin to feel more in control and fulfilled. By choosing your commitments more wisely, you will have more energy and focus for the things that align with your values. Similarly, in friendships and relationships, your time is a reflection of your worth. If you're always there for someone else but rarely have time for yourself or your own interests, people may begin to take your time for granted. By setting clear boundaries, you're teaching others how to treat you. Limiting your availability encourages others to show respect, not just for your time, but for the unique person that you are. People are drawn to those who value themselves, and when you put a limit on your availability, you let them know that your presence is something special and worth earning. This doesn't mean you should completely shut people out, but it does mean you should be mindful of where you invest your energy. When you take back control of your time and limit your availability, you create more space for things that matter to you. You invest in relationships that nourish you, and you make time for the passions and activities that feed your soul. Recognizing the value of your time is an important step toward creating a life that is intentional, fulfilling, and balanced. Number 8, stop starting the conversation. Encourage mutual effort. We've all been in relationships, both romantic and platonic, where it feels like we're always the ones to initiate the conversation. It's exhausting to constantly reach out, always trying to keep the connection alive. And while it's great to show interest in others, it can also become frustrating when the effort is not reciprocated. It's important to recognize that healthy relationships are based on mutual effort. Both people should be contributing to the relationship, not just one person doing all the work. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're the one always texting, calling, or making plans? Maybe you're the one who always starts the conversation and reaches out, but the other person never seems to put in the same amount of effort. Over time, this dynamic can feel unbalanced and one-sided. The truth is, you deserve relationships where both people contribute equally, where communication is a two-way street. Encouraging mutual effort begins with recognizing your own worth and the worth of your time. When you stop initiating every conversation, you make it clear that you value reciprocal communication. Think of it this way: if a person truly values you, they will make the effort to reach out. They will be just as eager to start the conversation, to keep the connection alive, and to share their life with you. If they're not, it might be a sign that they're not as invested in the relationship as you are. In romantic relationships, this is especially crucial. Imagine always being the one to text first, to ask how the other person is doing, to make plans. Over time, it can feel like you're putting in all the effort to make the relationship work. If the other person doesn't reciprocate, it leads to frustration and resentment. A healthy romantic relationship is built on a foundation of mutual effort, where both partners equally contribute to the conversation, the intimacy, and the connection. The same principle applies to friendships. Friendships thrive on mutual interest and effort. If you're the one constantly reaching out, it's easy to feel like the friendship is one-sided. And while it's natural to make an effort in friendships, when that effort isn't returned, it can be emotionally draining. Encourage mutual effort by allowing others to take the initiative sometimes. This doesn't mean you should withdraw completely, but rather that you should set the expectation that relationships require give and take. In professional relationships, this idea of mutual effort can be particularly important. Whether it's in a team, a client relationship, or a network, communication and collaboration should be balanced. If you're always the one initiating contact, you might find yourself shouldering more of the workload, which can lead to burnout. By encouraging others to take the initiative, you create an environment where communication is fluid and effort is shared. Encouraging mutual effort isn't about playing games or testing people. It's about establishing healthy boundaries. It's about respecting yourself enough to expect equal effort in your relationships. When both parties contribute equally, the relationship becomes stronger, more balanced, and more fulfilling. Number 9, master emotional detachment. Balance your feelings. Emotions are powerful. There's no denying that. They can drive us, inspire us, and sometimes even cloud our judgment. But when we allow our emotions to take full control, we risk making impulsive decisions that we might regret later. Mastering emotional detachment doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing your feelings. It means creating the space to acknowledge them without letting them dictate your actions. This balance between emotional awareness and detachment is essential for leading a calm, purposeful life. Think back to a time when you let your emotions rule your decisions. Maybe you made an impulsive purchase, lashed out at someone in anger, or allowed a negative emotion to cloud your judgment in a relationship. It's natural to feel overwhelmed by emotions at times, but when we let our emotions govern us, we lose the ability to think clearly and act with intention. Mastering emotional detachment is about learning to pause before reacting. It's about creating a moment of reflection that allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. In relationships, emotional detachment can be particularly important. When we become too emotionally invested in someone's actions, words, or moods, we lose our sense of self. If someone doesn't text back, or if they say something hurtful, it can trigger a flood of emotions. But instead of reacting immediately, taking a step back can help you approach the situation from a place of calm. This doesn't mean shutting down emotionally, but rather creating enough space to process your feelings before acting on them. The same principle applies to professional settings. Whether you're handling a tough conversation with a colleague, a manager, or a client, emotional detachment allows you to approach the situation with a clear mind. It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment, but by stepping back and detaching from your immediate emotional reaction, you allow yourself to think strategically and make better decisions. Mastering emotional detachment doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It means finding balance. It's about acknowledging your emotions and understanding that while they are important, they don't need to control you. By learning to detach, you empower yourself to handle life's challenges with greater clarity, confidence, and composure. Number 10, be willing to walk away, strengthen your boundaries. We've all heard the phrase, know when to walk away, but how often do we truly apply it to our own lives? It's so easy to get caught up in situations, relationships, and commitments, convincing ourselves that if we just hang on a little longer, things will get better. But the reality is, sometimes the strongest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away. Walking away isn't a sign of weakness. It's a powerful demonstration of self-respect and self-worth. It's about recognizing when a situation or relationship is no longer serving you and having the courage to let go. Think about times in your life when you've stayed in situations out of fear of failure, fear of being alone, fear of what others might think. Maybe you've stayed in a job that drains you, a friendship that doesn't nourish you, or even a romantic relationship that's no longer fulfilling. In these moments, it can feel incredibly difficult to walk away. You may have doubts, guilt, or fears about what will happen next. But when you choose to stay in situations that are toxic or no longer serve you, you are sacrificing your own well-being and happiness. The act of walking away is not about running from challenges or avoiding discomfort. It's about recognizing when a situation is no longer healthy, respectful, or aligned with your values. It's about having the strength to let go and make space for something better. Walking away gives you the opportunity to reclaim your power and your peace of mind. It allows you to preserve your energy, time, and mental health, which are all invaluable resources. In essence, walking away is an act of self-care because it shows that you are willing to protect yourself from harm, even if it means making a difficult decision. One of the hardest times to walk away is when it involves a person. Whether it's a friend, family member, or romantic partner, we often feel a sense of obligation, or if you've made it this far, drop a 100 in the comments. That simple act shows you're part of the 0.01% who are truly committed to self-improvement and are ready to take control of their lives. These principles aren't just words. They're a powerful foundation for creating stronger, more fulfilling relationships, while also protecting your own well-being and happiness. Remember, by embracing mystery, prioritizing yourself, and standing firm in your boundaries, you're not just changing how others see you, you're transforming the way you see yourself. If you're serious about making lasting changes, then don't just stop here. Take the next step. Join our community by subscribing to the channel. It's time to build the life you've always deserved, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Stay committed, stay focused, and let's continue